Let me tell you something about Football Manager. The stars, the attributes, they're a distraction. They distract you from the thing that's most important. The most important part of Football Manager, in my opinion, is not the stars, not the attributes, not the check out my new gen, not the look at how fancy this tactic is. No, it's the stories that you generate. Remember, Football Manager is actually an RPG. It is not just a sports simulation. It is a storytelling device. And so because of that, I've come up with what I call hardcore mode. Let's go learn about it today. All right, so when we look at Football Manager's hardcore mode, what we see is that we're using a very specific skin to get this set up. This skin is available on the Sports Interactive webpage. You look down at the bottom of this video in the description. I've got a link to it. It's the Hodr skin, H-O-D-R skin. This is apparently version 5 of it that I'm using. What this skin does is it will remove the star ratings and the attributes from the game. So we're going to go look at some players in general and get an idea of exactly what this means. Let's go look at Luciano Para, who is our leading goal scorer and one of our star players. We go over here to general, you'll notice that there are a lot of things that are different here about this thanks to this skin. There are no star ratings anywhere. Nowhere does it tell me, oh, this is the player's current ability or the player's potential ability. That you can't find that anywhere on here at all. What this will tell you are the number of appearances he has. He has 22 goals, 14 appearances with 1 substitute, 8.43 average rating. He has a number of assists as well, 4 man of the match ratings. We have some of these stats such as interceptions, headers won, blah, 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 for depending upon sort of how deep into the stats you want to get. One of the cool things about this is that you will get individual player analytics once players have played enough games. So you can just come over to here and you can see at a glance how this player has been playing in the role that you've set him up with and in relative to other players in the league playing the same position. That's actually kind of a really powerful thing to be able to see, an important thing to see that's not necessarily always a part of Football Manager as we normally have it. To me, this tells me a lot more about who the player is, who Luciano Para really is in this save than, oh, he's got 4-star current ability with 5-star potential or whatever. And it definitely tells me a lot more than some random number saying that he has like a 14 for finishing or something like that. That, I mean, out of context doesn't really mean very much. So what do you do when you're playing like this, right? I had a video just the other day about how to scout when you have this system, but what do you do if you're trying to actually manage a team? How do you make it work? Well, for me, what I do is I spend a lot of time over here in the coach report, right? The coach report will tell you some real interesting things. You might not always look at this because most of us, when we play Football Manager, just look straight at the star ratings. Coach report will tell you what kind of player you have. Oh, look, he's a star player. We think he can still improve. Of course he can still improve, by the way, because we look back and we see he's only 20 years old, right? I mean, so this was a really good player. This was a really good purchase. It'll give you his current ability, but not in terms of star ratings. Rather, it will say, oh, he's a good Super League player. Well, the Chinese Super League is the top division in Chinese football, right? So, I mean, this guy has the potential to stay with us until we get to the highest point, and he could continue to improve along the way, which is really impressive. And it gives you a very, very brief description of his potential ability. He could improve a little bit more, which tells me that maybe he's close to the top of his PA. I don't know. I don't really want to know, though. I want to know what the coach tells me about the player as opposed to some random star rating or a bunch of attribute numbers. We can learn other things here as well. He's done well in training. This is one that I always like to look at, which is it will tell you what type of side he would be good for. So he's right now playing really 2 tiers above the tier that we're currently in. He's consistent. That's one of the things I always look for. And then the other big thing is his personality. So he's determined, which is very, very helpful. With this skin, you can also see it here under nature. I don't know who created this and why they called it nature instead of personality. That personality section is the thing that will tell us whether a player is likely to make a lot of improvements or not. Determined is good. But of course, we would prefer like professional, perfectionist, model professional, model citizen. More on that in a future video. And this screen will also tell you some cons about the player. Some of these I don't really care about. Improve his shooting. I mean, whatever. The guy's got 22 goals. I mean, whatever. You tell me to do it, I'll go do it, you know, in those meetings or whatever. Who cares, right? The cons that I always look out for are inconsistent, dreads big matches, or injury prone. And sometimes you get guys who have all 3. Now, the other place that we really want to look into is training. There are no stars anywhere, right? So we're not going to be able to see how is he for every individual role, what role should we be training him in, or anything like that. What that means is that we have to listen to our coaches. We have to listen to the assistant manager, right? And so he'll tell us here, oh, he should be put in an individual training regime to improve his shooting. Well, then we can go over here and say, okay, here you go, here's your shooting, and then we'll do that till he gets upset with us, and then we'll take it off, the way that it always works. You'll notice here that training also gives us a lot of these player analytics that we just looked at that are very, very helpful. I'll give you an example of a player who might not look that good. So here's Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il is also a real player. This guy's a real player in real life, plays for the North Korean national team. You can see he's got 11 caps. He's been playing very, very well for us so far. 7 goals, 5 assists, 7.97 average rating, and he's going to look really, really good at these statistics because he's actually really too good for our level. When we look at the coach report, I like a lot of things about him. He's a current international, good player for most Super League sides. It's something we saw before. Recent performances are nothing short of sensational. Of course, he's unlikely to improve. That's because he's 28. And the part that really gets to me here is the susceptible to injuries. We haven't run into that yet, but who knows? And he doesn't enjoy big matches, which is a problem because we're going to play in a lot of big matches. So you can sort of see from here how you can make these decisions and these determinations. Now, if you're going to decide who to put on your squad, you've got a couple of options. You've got the squad planner here, which I will actually wait to show you. I'm going to do a video specifically on the squad planner after our January transfer window opens. If I show it to you now, it's going to be a mess because we have something like 50-something goalkeepers coming in, and I'm not actually going to start all of them. So, I mean, whatever, it's not meaningful. The other thing that you can do, though, is you can compare players with players who are currently on your squad. So we've got a guy coming up named Jubin. He was in the under-19s. He is a new gen who is from Jiamusi, which is over in Heilongjiang province. I don't know if you know the geography of China. You probably don't. Jiamusi is located like far, far to the east of Heilongjiang province. I mean, you've got like Harbin right here. You've got like, here's this little place where North Korea meets up with that part of northeast China, and also Russia's up on top. Jiamusi is like way, way off to the eastern part, almost on the shore of the Pacific Ocean. And it's a city, but in European terms it would be large. In Chinese terms, it's kind of small, a couple million people. So this guy's kind of like a guy over from the sticks, right? 15 years old, was stuck down in the youth team, has never played for the top team, no analytics to look at, but his training is absolutely superb. Doesn't have a great personality. Balance is not really what I'm looking for, as I said before. But the interesting thing about this guy is that he probably has the ability to play for our first team. And I say that because I'm about to compare him with one of our first team regulars. So we'll look at him compared to Liu Yue. Now, this screen works. You'll notice here that this is different, right? We don't have all of the numbers to do a direct numerical comparison, but we can get an idea of sort of what the shape of this is, right? And look, Liu Yue, naturally, he's going to have better mentals. He's better in the air. I mean, he's older. They're actually the same height. Jubin's a little bit less heavy. He's only 57 kilograms, which is, I think, less than my wife. Don't tell her. But you'll notice that he is just as good as Liu Yue, if not better, in terms of speed and physicality and his defending ability, and also in terms of his vision, which is absolutely incredible for somebody who's only 15 years old. This is the sort of thing you can do to make direct comparisons and see, hey, is this guy really good enough for my first team or not? You can do all of this without having to look at any stupid stars or any attributes and trying to like make a guess as to what this number means and what that number means. You can just go through here and look at it. The other things you can't really compare, right? Statistics, well, he hasn't really played much at all. You can compare their positions if you want. You know about all of this stuff. We can also look, of course, here at the direct comparison of the coach reports. Liu Yue is kind of a fringe player. We're probably going to move him on pretty soon, whereas Jubin is an exciting prospect because he has that ability to get better. And, of course, we can look here at his training and see where his training has gone. Here we go, training progress. And once again, you can see there's no star rating there. Notice that's just a black box. It's a gray box. But you can see that his ability was flat for a while, and then boom, all of a sudden we had an increase in ability. Pretty interesting stuff. And we can see all of this without necessarily having to go through and look at a bunch of star ratings and think about things like that. So, anyway, we can also take a quick look here, see what the assistant manager says. Our ass man says, oh yeah, he's shown excellent signs of development. He could become a truly outstanding player. He could be better than Han Jin, who is our model citizen, who unfortunately is not a particularly good player. And apparently he'd be a fringe player at the under-19 squad, which is got to be some sort of bug in the game because that's where he just came from. So that gives you sort of an idea, though, of how squad management can work when you're dealing with a system in which there is absolutely no star ratings at all, and there are no attributes to worry about, nothing like that. I'll give you a look at one more player, and then we'll wrap this up. The last one we'll look at is a famous player, if you've been watching this, Wu Ping, who is our goalie who has the low self-belief personality. He's generally good, only 15 years old, and has a lot of room to improve, worth more money than the guy that we just looked at. But again, the problem that I have is that he doesn't really think he can do it. It's been 106 minutes since he last gave up a goal, which is pretty good. But he's only played in 7 games so far. Now, we can go do a quick comparison as well and look at how he compares to Hoyu, who is our number 1 goalkeeper. We'll go back over to the overview, and we can see that, Hoyu is actually going to be a lot better at shot stopping, distribution. He's a lot more eccentric, which is something that we always watch out for. Wu Ping, though, despite his personality challenges, is pretty good in the air and has a lot of potential, a lot of possible room to grow. And so you can see how you can use this system, even though you don't have necessarily like a full picture of everything and of all of their attributes and stuff. You can use this system still to make some comparisons, get a good idea of kind of how one player compares against another and who it is that you want to start. Now, I would very, very strongly recommend, I would absolutely strongly recommend that you give this a try, because as far as I'm concerned, this is the way to play Football Manager. This is the best way to play it. It is the easiest way to play it, because instead of looking at a bunch of numbers and a bunch of stars, you're going to look at your players and you're going to get to know who your players really are. And that's what this game's all about. It's about those connections that you have with players who are actual players in the game, whether they're new gens or not, and not just about a bunch of numbers and I'm going to go on Reddit and show this guy off or whatever. I mean, that stuff is whatever. People like to do it. I don't know. For me, it's meaningless. What's meaningful to me is thinking about these guys as people and reporting on them as people and telling the stories that come with it. So if you want to do that, you want to focus on your players as people and not as numbers, come give this a try. Try hardcore mode with me. It's fun and it's worth it. Talk to you later. Bye.